Hey. Hey
Hey.
guys, welcome to Notorious Women Podcast. I'm Lavetta.
And I'm Miriam.
And this is Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
Yes.
Yeah, this is so much better. Just so you guys know, we have been
Mm.
having technical problems.
Mhm.
As soon as we would hit record, Miriam's Wi-Fi would start acting up.
It's my fault, you guys. It's me. That's true. Call me out.
No.
Listen.
Go ahead, darling.
Listen, I pay so much money for this Wi-Fi. So much money. Why?
I think there's a ghost wasn't there like a story or something about a ghost being inside an electrical thing? Like, I swear, like, there's a ghost in Outlook. There's a ghost in PowerPoint. There's a ghost in these things.
Is there a ghost in my router? I
think so.
I'm
I
gonna
think so.
fucking sage that router.
I think there's a ghost remember The Others when we're watching them and then you realize, okay, spoiler alert people, but you realize that they're the ghost and they're living in somebody
that
else's
movie's
house.
like literal 20 years old. I think
And
it's
it
okay.
totally is. But it's such a great twist because you're like,
Oh my God.
no.
I know. No. Oh my God. I remember watching that movie. Oh my God. Okay. I lived in a first floor apartment in Brooklyn, like 20 years ago, whenever it was out, right? I don't know, maybe 17 years ago. And my boyfriend, who is now my husband, really wanted to see this movie. And so I was like, okay, so on the ground floor means you hear all the this is Brooklyn. So there's cars and there's noise and there's people all the time right outside your window. I was so scared the entire time. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
But also I
scary.
loved it. I loved it so
That
much.
twist, though, we're like,
Girl.
what? You know,
I was like, turn on the lights. I need a minute.
I know,
and then
I'm
we could
totally a
finish the
scaredy
movie.
cat. I can't watch. I know everyone's raving about Megan. I cannot watch anything about exorcisms or fucking dolls.
Oh,
Hell no.
Mm-mm. Listen, I have
Nope.
children. I have children with dolls.
Oh, no.
So I do not. Nope. Mm-mm.
You know what I do? I am the basic bitch that when I go into a room and there's a freaky doll, I will turn the doll around. Like, I am that basic bitch. I'm a scaredy cat.
I don't know how to phrase this, but I see that about you. That's all I'm saying.
Screw you. All right. I think on that note, we should get started.
I love you so much, Lavetta. I do.
Yeah. Whatever. I know I'm a basic bitch, but you can't say I'm a basic bitch. So
I hear you. That's fair.
All right, let's jump into this.
All right.
I believe I'm first this week. For those of you who are kind of new to the podcast, the way it's set up, every week we meet and drag each other lovingly.
She started it. Okay.
We meet and we each tell each other a story of a notorious woman. She can be heroic or she could be horrific. She could be wonderful or she could be a trifling bitch or a basic bitch like me. But we don't know what each one of us is going to share. So it's like we're telling each other the story of a notorious woman. And so, so my notorious woman this week is Jenny Jones.
Jenny Jones.
Brrr, yep. Jenny Jones.
I feel like that should be familiar, but I'm, no idea.
Oh, okay. This is good. When I get into it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know who this is. The sources for my story, for my information this week comes from a couple sources. Let me just adjust this mic. Okay. From thethings.com, Wikipedia, her website. Jenny Jones has her website is still up, and various videos that were from Inside Edition. You remember Inside Edition?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
It was on Fridays at 7 or something. I made that up. I don't know, but I remember. I did. No, that was not real. I know. Okay, fine.
Okay. So let me get into it. So here we go. So Jenny Jones was born Janina Stronsky on June 7th, 1946 in Bethlehem. Before, it was the nation of Israel, and it was officially, and the nation of Israel, was officially recognized by the
so
UN.
many religions, so little time.
I know.
Wait.
Then, so it was
1948.
1946. So it was considered the British Mandate of Palestine.
Right. Right.
Because
Because my family's
1946.
from Israel, so I actually know this really well. And I like to brag about it. So there, I have bragged. I already knew that. Go on.
Okay. I didn't know that. And, perhaps our listeners didn't know that. But
right. It's a fun fact.
So now she was born to a dressmaker by the name of Sophie and John Stronsky, a Polish army officer who was a World War vet and was with the British Armed Forces at the time of her birth. So that's why she was born in Bethlehem. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when she was still young, her family moved to Italy, then to London, and then to Ontario, Canada.
That
in
sounds like a good
1948.
trip. I want to go on that trip.
Well, it sounds a little like chaotic, maybe, because she was born in 46, and then by 48, they had moved to Italy, London, and then Canada.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. It's a lot of travel with a small child.
There's a lot of travel with a small child, and she's so it sounds wonderful, but it only sounds wonderful when you're like taking these trips for leisure, or it sounds like you never know.
Girl, maybe I just need a vacation. It's possible.
It could be that, but I suspect when I get into the rest of it, you probably agree. I suspect that it was just out of necessity.
Gotcha.
For survival. So now Jenny, she had an older sister who helped out in a store. So after immigrating to Canada, her parents ran a bridal shop named Sophie after her mother.
Okay.
So these were I think we forget that the armed forces, unless you're like a high ranking officer, usually doesn't pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and even then it's not enough to always raise a family depending on what part of the world you're living in. So, so they moved to Canada, 48, and then, her parents opened up a bridal shop, and she and her older sister would help out, in the store, while attending Catholic school. And to make things a little bit even more complicated, John and Sophie's marriage was a bit volatile.
Oh, that's never good.
Yeah, and it eventually ended when the girls were 10 and 12. So, and then the girls moved to Montreal, to Quebec. I think that's how you, Quebec.
Listen, I like to pretend I'm French, but I think it's obvious that I'm not. But I would be like Quebec.
I would say Quebec because I'm American, and that's how we say things that we don't know how to pronounce. Wrong, exactly. So the parents split. The girls moved to Montreal with their mother, and then the father moves away. The father actually stays there in Canada, in Ontario, London, Ontario. So now Sophie, so suddenly on her own, raising two children on her own, Sophie was having a difficult time. Doing, surviving as a dressmaker. She started, a small business out of her home. And by Jenny's account, her mother developed a drinking problem.
Oof.
From the stress of it. Yes. And then, so you never know if this is a chicken or egg. Raising children is very, very difficult, even to the most well-adjusted person, but particularly if you're having personal issues.
Listen, I don't know how I can't. I put so much on my husband. I am definitely not I'm not the mom that's like, no, let me do everything. I'm like, I worked for an hour and a half today. I'm exhausted. Can you start dinner? That is me. So I do not know. I'm so much respect for single moms out there. I'm just tired. Do you know how much takeout my children would eat? It would be a lot. It would be a lot.
I mean, I think that's why a lot of single parents, the children become very self-sufficient very fast. Which, to be fair, that's actually good for them in the long run, but not when they're too young. And like, I think the emotional stuff is a lot more detrimental to young, growing human beings than like the food or like, you know what I mean? Like takeout or like whatever.
My kids, the first thing they learned in the pandemic was how to make breakfast.
Amen.
I was like, good morning. It's been 3 days. I can no longer make you breakfast. I will make you snack, lunch, snack, dinner. I will not also make you breakfast. You got to do what you got to do. I was like, it's too much.
Good.
And it's good. And now, like, I'll be like, go downstairs, make your breakfast, and they can do it.
Yeah, it teaches them, but again, I think it's the emotional stuff that, that's really hard for kids sometimes. That's, so yeah, Sophie was having a hard time in the divorce and then suddenly being a single mom. And so she developed a drinking problem. And then I don't know if this is a chicken or egg situation, because then the girl started acting out. So you don't know if they're acting out because she's drinking and then the divorce, their dad not being around, or if the stress of them acting out and going through the divorce leads to Sophie's drinking. It's neither here nor there. It's both harmful no matter which one came first.
Right.
Of this time, Jenny herself has said, quote, "My relationship with my mother was painful as far back as I can remember," end quote.
Oh, that's tough.
Then she goes on to say she was, quote, "She was cold and distant, and even after my success, there was nothing I could do to please her," end quote.
Wow. So. Oof. I mean, this was before people, like a doctor would say, "How are you feeling emotionally?" You know what I'm saying? Like now, like I'm old. So now when like I go to the doctor and the doctor's like, "How are you feeling emotionally?" I'm like, "Why? Oh, this is part of care now." But that was not part of care. And so many like problems, issues, things that could have been helped just got like, oh, she just likes her drink. It's fine. Move it along,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So living with an alcoholic can be tough as a child. So at the age of 11, Jenny ran away from home for the first time. Along with an older girlfriend, she managed to pass for 16 and worked as a waitress for a short time.
I'm sorry, at 11?
At 11.
At 11?
Yep.
Wow.
But then,
11? Okay.
Yeah. So obviously her parents, whether they had issues at home, her mother and her father, they cared about her. So of course they're frantic. Can you imagine your 11-year-old child leaves home and you have no idea where they are?
Nope.
And so eventually she was found by the police and they returned her to Montreal. Soon after, though, she and her sister started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so, getting into trouble. So her mother sent them back to live with their father and his new wife.
Okay. How'd that work out?
Well,
we're going to find out.
Yeah. So
what do I think? It's not good. I think it's probably not good. Okay, go on.
So, of course, she butted heads with her new stepmother, Jenny, So she ran away for the second time. This time with her sister, and they were heading back to Montreal.
Were they running back to mom?
Not necessarily. I think it was just going back to,
what they knew.
Yeah, it's kind of like that thing because they're like preteens, young teens. Like this is scary.
I think of Stranger Things. They're probably running back to their hooligan friends.
Yeah,
hooligans.
How old are you? 70? Hooligans.
I'm 79. They're a bunch of hooligans. Get back in this house right now.
What's this tomfoolery with these hooligans?
Look at you and tomfoolery. Okay. Okay.
I love that term. Tomfoolery. You're like, who comes up with that? I love it. So they then run back to Montreal, but then their father soon bring them back to London, Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, they're getting tours of Canada. Okay.
Yeah. And the father was told by some of their friends back in Montreal where they were hiding out. And like, it's just a mess. Like, it's just like, the marriage is over and then the girls are acting out. And it's like, as soon as they get of age to be able to do things for themselves, they use it to like act out and run away. But they're still children. This is why teenage years are so hard because
oh God, I'm not looking forward to it at all.
They're just
I'm taking
big
this
enough.
whole story very personally, by the way.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm feeling
what I was
called out
intending.
as a parent, and I'm not really sure why. But
no, don't call. Teenagers, preteens and teenagers is so terrifying because they make terrible decisions because their brain hasn't fully developed.
No,
but they're
not
just
at all.
big enough to get into trouble. When they get old enough to finally do for themselves, you're like, you think the parents can breathe, but no, and then they get just big enough to get into enough trouble to ruin their futures.
Yeah. No, listen, my husband's always like, oh, when they're old enough to like, and I'm like, no, it's only getting worse. Don't look forward to that. It's going to get worse. And it's fine. I love them more than life itself. But that's just the facts. I have friends with older kids, so I know what's going to happen.
I know. Now, of her childhood, Jenny has said, quote, I didn't want to be with either parent and couldn't wait until I was old enough to leave. Show business was my only way out, end quote.
That's so sad.
I know. Now, to make matters worse, so her mother's drinking. Then she started heavily drinking while she was in high school, leading to her grades plummeting and even to her to starting to have blackouts.
Wow.
Do you know how much you have to drink to have blackouts?
Listen, Lavetta, I actually don't have to drink that much. Like, I've never done it, but
you and me both.
I get drunk like halfway through that first glass of wine. Like, all my friends are like, "Whoa, is this drunk Miriam already?"
Drunk
and I'm like,
Miriam.
"Yeah, it's drunk Miriam." Hey, so that not too much for me, but
yeah,
blackout. Ugh, that's not
blackout drunk. So now, when she was in her early teens, she started, she signed with a modeling agency and began doing a little modeling on the side. She's interested in entertainment as a way out, but also it's fun,
Yeah.
She also took up music and began playing drums for several bands, which led to her eventually dropping out at 17 to play in a band who was going on the road.
Wow. Oh, 17. Dude, you're almost there. Just get your diploma. Dude, you're like 3 months away. And then you could graduate.
Right,
you don't even have to walk at graduation. You just need the paper. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? Her father agreed because he was like, not in my house, you don't. So he told her, listen, it's either school or you ain't got no place to stay. So she was like, deuces, bitch. I'm out. Yeah.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah.
So she left to go on tour at age 17 and a tour on Canada and the U.S. as a drummer in a rock and roll band. 2 years later, at age 19, she decided to move to Los Angeles.
Oh, welcome.
But we all know how expensive adulting can be. So to make ends meet, she worked a series of odd jobs, including at a movie theater ticket taker, as a hostess at a strip club, and a bunch of other side hustles until she also landed, in addition to doing these other jobs, she landed a drumming job in a beer bar in Santa Monica.
So she didn't sleep, is what you just told me.
19. Yeah, you got to keep going. Thank God
I
she
don't
has
think
the
I
energy.
slept when I was 19 either.
Yeah. So now this last gig, the drumming gig in Santa Monica, eventually landed her a better gig with an all-girl band in Las Vegas. So she's like, networking, meeting other people and other young people in the band. So by the age of 22 in 1968, she also formed another all-girls band called the Cover Girls, and they toured successfully for 2 years, even playing in her hometown. So at 22, she comes back as like, I made it, bitches. Like, I'm in a band. I mean, the Cover Girls, like, That sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know if they had any hits. I don't think they did. Maybe they were like a locally successful band or like.
Listen, she's already more successful than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna
Not
give
bad
this
for a
to her.
dropout. And it's
I
not
mean,
bad for a
right?
dropout too. So
I went to college and I never did that. So, you know,
now around this time,
you know,
though,
like PSA, stay in school. Okay, go on.
PSA is cool. So now around this time, she met a man
Oh God, I knew you were going to say that.
by the name of no, it's not even that. By the name of Jack Howard Poster.
Okay.
It's not clear what happened, but the marriage was annulled. She didn't divorce; it was annulled the following year. So
I mean, they were probably bored and they were like, let's get hitched.
and
for
remember, she's
fun.
Catholic too. Remember, she was raised Catholic.
Does
so
she believe in Catholicism? Was she raised Catholic?
she was raised Catholic, but I think around this time, you're kind of like learning, like, oh, that does, the way you were raised, like, oh, that doesn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
Because she married a few more times, so I don't
Okay,
even
then
think
yeah,
that
she's
was
not, or maybe just like that part of the doctrine was not,
yeah,
something she
maybe
needed to worry about,
So the marriage was annulled to this guy, Jack. But then shortly, so she married. This is all happening around the same time. But then she goes on tour with the Cover Girls for about 2 years.
Okay.
But then after that 2 years, the band split, and then she married another gentleman by the name, a fellow musician by the name of Al Gambino.
Gambino.
And she settled in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So by now, she's an accomplished musician. She was discovered by Wayne Newton.
Oh, okay.
Who
No
offered
kidding.
her a job as a backup singer, and within a month appointed her the arranger for his backup vocals. Now, for those people who are not in the industry, Wayne Newton, I don't know a lot about Wayne Newton, but I know Wayne Newton's a big star, and particularly in Vegas. Like,
I was going to say,
have you
he's
seen
the
that
Vegas
show
guy.
Hacks? Have you seen that show Hacks?
I've seen the entire first season.
So good.
So
you know how Beverly in the show Hacks has so much fucking money that she has her own
yes, I do.
pond in her backyard.
Yes, I do.
That's how much money you can make from these residencies.
So I'm just not sure why my residency hasn't been picked up on yet. I think they want a specific skill, and I'm just gonna be on stage every night, and then you're gonna give me a lot of money, and it doesn't seem to be working. My plan, Lavetta,
Well,
I can't.
Can you sing?
I mean, everyone can sing, and in that realm,
no.
I can sing too. Right? Because we all shower, hopefully. Right? And whilst in the shower, I mean, I sound so good. Yes. Because also Shakespeare, I can quote soliloquies, which I'm sure everyone wants to hear. Thousands of people a night.
Oh my God.
I don't see the problem.
Well, I think you should wait on that residency.
Why?
Because I think you have to do a little bit more than shower singing.
What are you talking about, Lavetta? I shower a lot. I work on this. Okay.
I think you have to I think you have to be good enough singer for people to pay money to come and see you.
How dare you? How dare you?
Listen, I aim to drag all the time. Did you not hear me from earlier? I'm a basic bitch. Okay. So
I'm like you and everybody else.
Now, but I just wanted to convey this is a big deal. And also one of the things about these residencies is that people love it, not just the big stars, but the people who work on these. It's hundreds of people who are working on these productions, and it's a steady gig that's creative.
I was going to say, for an artist, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you can actually have steady income.
Exactly. Now, while working with Wayne Newton, her first marriage ended, but then she met and married her second husband, but third marriage.
Third. Oh, right, because annulled.
Yes.
Right, got it.
Buzz Wilburn, a record executive who worked for Wayne Newton's label.
Okay.
So they got married in 1973.
Okay.
So she moved back to Los Angeles with her husband and formed her own band, Jenny Jones and Company, excuse me, which played at local nightclubs like the Lobster House in Marina del Rey and the Holiday Inn in Pasadena.
Okay.
So again, this is not exciting stuff, but it's steady gig, especially for someone who dropped out of high school.
I mean, she's been working steadily as a musician
all
this time, making her living doing that. I say that's pretty impressive.
I think, I agree. I agree. Now, between songs, she entertained the crowd with humorous observations, and before long, audiences were requesting that she extend her comedy.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, in 1980, her second marriage ended, but with third husband.
Uh-huh.
So she decided to seriously pursue a full-time career in comedy around this time. Because I'm assuming if she, even 1973, 74-ish, she makes her way back to LA and she's playing like the Lobster House, and, you know, she's like, maybe the big time in music is not going to happen. So maybe let me pivot, right? Which is smart. It's always smart to pivot. So she, now along the way, she's back to working odd jobs, and, you know, I don't know how much her ex-husband made, so I don't know how much, if she got any alimony, but, you know, she's a single gal again, so she gotta, you know, pay the bills. So she took odd jobs, she temped, and she even found time to go on The Price is Right.
Okay. Yeah, I love that show.
She won a sports car and $6,000 in cash.
Listen, that's amazing.
No,
we could just talk about
this.
This
is amazing.
Okay.
She then went on The Match Game, where she won $5,500.
Okay, really? You know, I would lose like the first round. I'm just saying, this is my life. Like, I would be called up, and I would just lose. I would lose my time. I'd lose my dignity because it's being filmed, and I'd make no money. Okay.
Well, and I just want to say, okay, so that's around $11,000 in 1980. So that's around 39. So it's around $40,000 by today's money.
That's life-changing.
So, yeah, not, you know, that's, yeah. So because with her winnings from The Match Game, she was able to quit her job, her day job, and pursue comedy full time, touring the country, honing her comedy skills, taking any job she can get. But during those days, she shared the stage with people like Jerry Seinfeld, Tim Allen, Billy Crystal, Sinbad, and Bob Saget, and many more. Because this is the early days of formalized stand up, where like you have that circuit. Whereas before you always had, I mean, obviously you've had comedy acts and stand ups going back to the, you know, the 30s or 40s and the 50s. But a lot of times they were part of a variety show where you had singers and dancers and magic people.
Yeah.
The 80s is where, that late 70s and the 80s is where like stand up comedy as we know it today really was like exploded in a huge way.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people will tell you that that's why people love, I mean, obviously, because he's also fucking hilarious, but Richard Pryor, the release of his albums, because before people would do like those, like, I don't know if you've seen My Name is Dolomite, like they would do those party albums and they would release albums and they were on smaller tours.
Yeah.
You know, and again, that started even in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, but like in the late 1970s and 1980s is when you started having like full on explosion of like comedy, like stand up comedy throughout the country, where a stand up comic can make a living just going around and doing like anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour set. And they just traveled around the country and they could make a lot of money. But also MTV and VH1 started these stand-up comedy specials.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would see like Rosie O'Donnell, hosting one, and they would bring up like, 3 or 4 comics and that kind of thing. So stand-up comedy's been around a long, long time prior to this, but in the late 70s and the 80s, I think it became like a big thing for the normal public. I remember a couple years ago, Eddie Murphy, he was doing press for My Name is Dolomite, and he was talking about how, like, when he started, he was a teenager in New York, and he was like, that was like the 70s and the early 80s. He was like, you have to understand, there were like no clubs really that had like a stand-up comedy night. Like, he was like, there wasn't really a place to quote unquote work out material, because he's like, they would like have one night a week where it's in between like disco and like, other things, like, he's like that really exploded in the late 70s, early 80s, especially the early 80s. So she's like hitting, and I say all that to say is that she's hitting this, like, she's in the sweet spot. Like, her timing's impeccable for her to start this. And that's probably why she decided to pursue it full time, because she saw, this could be a thing for her to really make money as like a unknown, and then possibly hit the big time, which she did. So let's get back to the story. So she was on the stage with all these people, and she said of this time, quote, "We were all struggling comics back in the day, and the ones who worked hard and worked clean were the ones who made it," end quote. So all this hustling eventually paid off. Okay. And you remember Star Search?
Yes, I remember Star Search. I lived for Star Search.
So for the people who don't know, Star Search was like a variety. What was this? It was like, it's basically like all of these. It was an early iteration of like The Voice, American Idol, but it had different kinds of acts. So you had modeling. You had comedy.
Remember the modeling? They would just stand there. You had great.
Singing. You had a group singing.
Listen,
so it was
it was Ed McMahon. Let me tell you. First of all, little baby Britney Spears got her start on Star Search. Also, little baby Beyonce. Okay. Star Search. Who else? I was obsessed with Star Search. I knew, listen, I wanted to be in one of the acting ones, but they were always
that's right. They did have an acting category.
They were not that good. Like, the singers were like, look, if you're a good singer and you're hitting all the notes, it's great. But like, the acting ones are like, Patricia, what's wrong? Stop it, John. I don't want to talk about it. Right. And it was like, okay, that was fine. The audience was like, whatever, Thank you for letting me go off on Star Search, because I love it so much.
But it was huge. And I think for like, Zillennials and like even like millennials who are like on the younger end, they might vaguely remember, but like it was huge. This is a big deal. And a lot of comics and even a lot of comics and singers especially got a lot from being on the show and placing. Like if they got to what was it, like the semifinals and then the finals. Just to be on the show was huge.
Fun fact, Beyonce did not win.
She did not win.
She went on, but she did not win. I listened to a podcast about it. Anyways, let's move on.
So Jenny Jones did the whole Star Search thing and won in 1986.
Ooh,
she won the comedy.
Star Search. Wow.
She won $100,000.
That's like $9 million in today's money.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Maybe I exaggerate. I don't know.
It was, so $100,000 would be, where is it? Okay. I said I was going to do this ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't.
But I did it.
See that?
Why is it bringing up? Oh,
it's bringing up. Do you want me to Google this for you?
No,
I have a phone.
I got it.
Okay.
I didn't put in enough zeros. It would be $270,000. So $250,000.
Wow. That's a house. That's a house money.
Yeah.
That's like a whole ass house. But not in California. Definitely not in California.
I mean, it would have been then, but not now.
Yeah, exactly.
So but not only that, it's like the exposure from winning. So this led to her being able to headline at places like Caesar's Palace in Vegas, Radio City Music Hall in New York City, and even to be interviewed by Larry King himself on his TV show.
What? Okay. She has made it.
So this is like really, really making it. It is like winning American Idol. Like it's,
She is Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, she's setting it up. So now because of this, like I said, she was interviewed by Larry King on his show and on 2020.
Oh.
So the 80s basically were like great for Jenny Jones. Like they were fucking amazing. She went from being like a once annulled and twice divorced former musician turned comic who won Star Search, who started like touring. So that's after Star Search, she started making like real money, like big money.
Yeah.
And you can literally say that she made it. So, but after somebody saw her on the 2020 interview, because again, that's huge as prime time. She was approached by a WB executive who proposed that she do a talk show.
I knew it. The Jenny Jones show. I knew it. I didn't want to sound stupid, so that's why I didn't say that, because I thought I was mixing it up. But nope, the Jenny Jones show. I remember it now. Okay. Yep. Okay. I'm not crazy.
So this is 1991. And again, the 80s were great for her. She's been like really, really successful comic. I'm sure they probably even played around with maybe her doing a sitcom, because that's what a lot of comics did back then. But for whatever reason, daytime talk show, that was the idea that resonated with her. So now in 1991, she began the Jenny Jones show, jumping into an already crowded daytime field that was dominated by the Oprah Winfrey Show. And so
that's my favorite. Thank you for asking. Go on.
So it's like the Oprah Winfrey Show, and then there's the rest of these shows who also had other success, but they just weren't as successful as the Oprah Show. So, because of this, Jenny was sort of in that category of, I would say, I don't want to say B-list because that's not really accurate. But like, again, there's Oprah and then there's all the other shows.
Yeah.
But because all the other shows were competing, sometimes in competing time slots, they had to be a little bit more salacious. So they were considered tabloid talk shows. And that's something that Oprah kind of dabbled into, but soon pivoted, where it's like salacious talk. And like, if you look back at 90s stuff, you're like, it was fucking problematic. A lot of shit from the 90s was problematic as fuck.
It was not okay. That was on not okay.
Television all day long and all night long. So,
and you think about the stuff that was on television at like 4 p.m. and there was no streaming. So the children would turn on the TV after school and see like people beating up other people on a talk show. Like,
oh, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, let's go.
So, yeah. So that they were considered tabloid talk shows. Shows like The Ricky Lake Show, Maury Povich, Jerry Springer, Jenny Jones, Montel William, like Rolanda, Sally Jesse Raphael.
With the red glasses. Yes.
Glasses. So it was a crowded field. And so you had to like distinguish yourself. And so they kind of like dealt in the the outlandish and the bizarre topics and incidents of like, so basically it was set up like the guests would be invited to be outlandish or bizarre. And then the topics would be outlandish and bizarre. And then the audience was encouraged to like participate. So like to react to what the guests were saying. So it just became like, that's a tabloid talk show tone.
The way you're phrasing it sounds like a very genial situation, and I don't think
it wasn't.
Do you like my use of the word genial though?
I know, I do.
Don't I sound smart?
You sound smart.
Thank
you. Sound smart.
Appreciate it. I hope I used it correctly. Anyways, so go on.
It's not. I am using that because when I get to the reason that she's notorious, you'll see. So,
okay.
So this is the environment in which she's entering this marketplace, this crowded field. But what set her apart is that a lot of people talked about how she had a bizarre lightheartedness in the midst of like this chaotic scene sometimes.
Okay.
And they even parodied it on Mad TV. Which
TV.
by Mo Collins did an impression of Jenny
Yes.
Jones. It's sort of like, she's sort of like, like all this craziness like going on around her. And, you know, it's the way, it's her delivery. You know, it's probably a layover from her, like her stand-up routine, like her shtick,
Oh, yeah.
you know, her persona, her stand-up persona. But yeah, it was kind of lighthearted in the midst of all this bizarreness. So, but along with the formula of salacious and outlandishness that came along, with these kinds of shows and the pressure to top each episode each week, some, like Jenny Jones, started going into the realm of the salacious storyline that focused on, quote, surprises that may or may not have their guests acting out.
You're the
Right?
father. Like that
Yeah,
stuff?
exactly.
Yeah.
You're the father, or Jerry Springer, like, no, that bitch didn't. Da, da, da. Like, you know, like, I slept with your mama and your sister. And it's like,
I'm not here right now.
yeah. It's like trailer park brawl or something, right? Like, do you know there's a thing, side note, there's a thing called the redneck rave.
I do not know this.
And somebody got impaled.
Oh my God. What?
Yes. There's a redneck rave. I think it's in Kentucky or someplace like that. And apparently it's a thing. It's been a thing for a while. And yeah, someone got impaled. And like 14, it sounds like Jerry Springer gone wild.
Okay.
When I read like the top headline, like the headline from the redneck rave. And it reminds me that this is basically the precursor for the redneck rave.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the setup.
you're like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, so back to the story. So again, so her show, along with other shows, started going into like, how do we surprise the guest or shock the audience? So again, it's all about audience participation, right? As well.
Okay.
So, her show kept pushing the envelope of this, along with other shows, but her show in particular. So in the third season of the show,
Like, what did she do? Go on.
So the producers decided to run a segment on secret crushes.
Oh, God.
So on an episode called Same Sex Secret Crushes, taped on March 6, 1995.
Ooh, 95. Okay.
95.
I don't think we were there yet. Were we there yet? Was
We
society?
You'll see.
Okay.
So on March 6, 1995, a man by the name of Scott Amendure, who's 32,
Okay.
confessed his crush on his friend, John Schmidt. 24. So
Okay.
Scott comes on. He's an out and proud gay man.
Okay.
And he and John, his friend, who by all accounts is a straight man, were friends.
Okay.
But, you know, the producers that called them ahead of time and set all this up and da-da-da. So when they
Right.
talked to Scott, you know, he was the one that's confessing his crush. But when they talked to John, they didn't tell him. They just told him someone has a crush on you.
Oh,
So they brought him on.
But that's so okay. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking like now we know we have to script the reality show. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
John, your friend who's a man has a crush on you. Do you want to go get famous? And he's going to tell it. And John's like, yeah, let's get famous. And that's how you do reality shows.
This is the problem with the fucking 90s.
The 90s, the society in the 90s was a dick. I'll just say it.
It was
I'll
a
just
dick.
put it that way.
Yeah.
It's a fucking asshole, really.
So we know this is nothing. Scott is a lovely man.
Totally.
You know, he's friends with this guy. Is not, you know, he's coming on the show again. And then
Also,
they
it's
would
a
lure.
crush.
It's a crush.
Just a crush.
And they would lure people in for the promise of like free, you know, airfare tickets, hotel stays,
Oh,
and a free
right.
trip. It's a free
Yeah,
trip.
to LA. Destination.
And that's another thing about these tabloidy talk shows is like they trafficked they usually used, you know, a lot of the guests, especially in these salacious topics, are like poor working class people. So the promise of a trip is like oh, they're going to fly me out to LA. Like, I'm going to be,
Yeah, I'm going to
it's
be
like,
a TV star.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
exciting if you're from a
Totally.
small town. Like it's so exciting, right? So again, Scott, 32, confessed his crush to his friend John on air.
Okay.
And when you watch the tape, it's so weird because when you watch the tape, it's harmless. It's cute, actually. The
Okay.
audience, you think it's going to go like, if it had been on Jerry Springer, it might have gone violent or Maury Povich, but it's actually kind of cute, everyone's kind of blushing. John is laughing. It doesn't seem like a big deal. And the audience is like, ooh, but then the audience, because again, it is 95. So the audience,
Right.
there's some members of the audience who are like, oh, it's just a crush, right?
Yeah.
So, but later on, John would say that he felt humiliated by the experience.
Okay.
And again, while on the show, John is reacting with laughter, like, aha, he didn't tell me. Oh, why didn't you tell me? I just saw you, da, 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 da. 3 days later, after the show's taping,
Yeah.
John killed Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't I know this story?
You know
Oh
this
my
story.
God, I must know this story. There was something in the news, but oh my God. I guess
He killed them.
What the fuck? There, I'll
shot
say
him.
it. What the fuck? I'll say
Yep.
it twice. I don't know what else to say. How horrific.
Yeah. Now, during the trial, the ethics of these tabloidy talk shows were called into question, with critics blaming the practice of humiliation through ambush that a lot of these shows trafficked in. Scott's,
That's correct. And I fully
They're
agree
correct.
with that. But I also think that homophobia is that level detrimental. So if anyone who is homophobic and listens to us, which I don't think can exist, but if it is there, that is why, right? That is a good argument. Because this shit.
Because homophobia is dumb.
It's also stupid.
Dumb.
It's so fucking
And
stupid.
let me just say this, straight men, straight cis men, let me just say, I'm talking to y'all.
Go ahead.
And I hope y'all listen to this. The ones who have been listening to this don't need to hear this, but tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Most straight cis men ain't good looking enough for gay men to be after y'all. Gay men's standards of appearance are way higher than cis straight women. Cis straight women will take your Quasimodo looking motherfucking face and be like, I can fix him up. Gay men ain't got time for that.
No.
Gay men have options.
Yes.
They got options. They ain't got to quote unquote trick you into turning gay. They got they too busy getting laid and having way more sex than you are having.
100%.
They don't need to trick you. Your trifling ass. You are too crusty. You are too crusty and ain't cute enough for a gay man to try and trick you. So this fear y'all have about a gay man coming after you. Gay men getting way too much action to be wasting their time with you. Only us dumb cis women who are attracted to cis straight men
are like, okay, fine.
Yeah. I can clean him up, take him to get his toenails that are the size of knives cut. Get his teeth done. Get him some whitening strips. Okay. Get him a haircut. Take him to Marshall's and get him some clothes. Only we are simple enough and dumb enough to be like, we can work with this. I can work with this.
Like, give me
society have told us
a year. I can do this.
Yeah. Because society have brainwashed us into thinking that, we can fix it. But a gay man, he ain't got time.
Nope.
To be dealing with your crusty ass. I'm just going to say that. So
listen,
I just wanted, that's a side
feel
note.
Like that is all that they need to understand the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You're not
gay
that
men
cute.
are not scooping on you. I think the fear is that, and this is homophobia because it makes no sense. Like the fear is that, they're scoping on you the way you scope on women and being skeezy and grimy. And, no, gay men ain't got time for that. Okay.
You're the skeezy one.
It is a compliment if you are a straight man, if you're a cis straight man and a gay man finds you attractive. That's the highest form of a compliment.
You better be bragging to that everywhere. Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with being queer. There's nothing wrong with being gay. So stop it and suck it up. And again, most gay men, they standards are way too high that you don't meet.
Yeah, no, it's
only some dumb woman be like, yeah, I guess so. Okay. Okay.
Let me see if I have a brush in my purse. Hold on.
Yeah. Gay man ain't got time for you. So I said all that to say, so let's get back to the story. So yes. So
that happened.
Yeah. So John killed Scott.
Jesus. Okay.
And so again, during the trial, the critics were just like, yeah, this is bound to happen because you set up these scenarios and, you know, people who were struggling with mental health or who are just hateful might snap and this might happen. So now Scott's family lawyer said of the producers that the irresponsible people who are beholden or answerable, that these people are irresponsible people who are beholden and answerable to no one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Now, the show that they met on never aired, but you can find it on YouTube. And now of the trial itself, Jenny herself said, quote, as much as we all regret what happened, the fact is this is about the actions of one individual, end quote. You're skirting it. You're skirting it, Jenny. Yeah. Nah. Now, I mean, that's what she has to say, I guess, you know, to protect the show and what have you.
Yeah.
In the end, John was convicted of second-degree murder and received a sentence of 25 to 50 years in prison.
Because he murdered somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I understand. Here's the thing. I think it's two separate things. I think the shows suck. You like that mentality, that ideology of like gotcha television and using a poor class of people to lure them with, you know, with a trip, with possible fame. People love that. And then throw something at them on national television is not good. Get it? But also murder is not good. Like,
yeah, it's
don't
not good.
Murder. Okay.
Yeah. And a little bit more about this too, because, okay, so he was convicted and then the Scott's family, the murdered man, his family sued the producers of the Jenny Jones show.
Yeah, I would.
So they went to civil court saying that they should have known about John's history of mental illness. In interviews, Jenny said the producers told John that his admirer could be a man, but that John thought that the admirer was a woman, his ex-fiance actually. So she's saying, oh no, but we did warn him, and you know, but it's like you have to be more responsible. You know, we still live in a homophobic society.
Yeah.
But especially in the 1990s. You know, this again is about the salaciousness of it and it's the got you kind of thing. And so Jenny also said that the show didn't want John to know about the outcome of his secret crush. This is again all during the civil suit. Okay. But Scott's family said that the producers should have been aware that John might react violently due to his struggles with mental health. But even just to consider it, even if let's take away his struggles with mental health, even just in that environment of the mid 1990s,
yes,
you have to consider that, right?
Yes, you really do.
So now the jury and the judge must have agreed with Scott's family because they won. They won an award of $25 million. So they sued the Jenny Jones show and won for $25 million.
Wow. I mean,
but later, the verdict was overturned by the Michigan Appellate Court.
Really?
Yep.
So they got nothing?
They got nothing. Despite this notorious incident, the Jenny Jones continued for another 8 years.
Damn. Okay.
Until 2003.
Oh, we're in the 2000s already.
Yeah. So John was actually released from prison in 2017. So
Okay.
now afterwards, Jenny continued on as the public forgot about the tragedy that a man lost his life, an innocent man was killed. She went on to, like I said, continue hosting the show. She wrote an autobiography in 1997, and she even survived this horrendous scandal. Now, ratings in the early 2000s did begin to wane, and the public was losing interest in the drama of these kinds of tabloid shows.
They just kind of started to dissipate a little in society, I feel.
Yeah. Eventually, the show was canceled in 2003. Now, after the end of the show, she turned her focus to philanthropic endeavors, especially in the advocacy of cancer research. Okay. But she had started doing this early on in her life because back in 1981, she had undergone silicone implant operations, breast implants.
Oh, yes. I remember.
That left her with firm and asymmetrical breast. She later had them removed for an expose for People magazine. And she talked about like just going through that process of how horrendous it was and, just women's health, especially around that kind of thing, because we also know the 90s were all about the boob job too.
Yep. Sure was.
She then went on to establish the Image Foundation as a resource for women seeking information about implants and support with body image issues.
Okay.
In 1997, she wrote an autobiography, Jenny Jones, My Story. And it was published with 100% of the proceeds going to breast cancer research. She became an honorary chairperson for the Susan G. Komen for the Cure, Chicago Race for the Cure, an annual event that raises awareness of money for breast cancer research. She also donated a mobile mammogram motor coach to John H. Stogger Jr. Hospital of Cook County. In 2005, after the show, she established the Jenny Jones Foundation as a means to provide assistance to those in need. Her primary areas of focus were education, women's health, and improving communities throughout the country. In 2008,
that's great. Go on.
Yeah, she established the Jenny's Heroes, a program where through the foundation, she gave about $2 million of her own money to individuals wanting to make a difference in their local communities. She's also written a cookbook called Look Good, Feel Great. And she also donated the proceeds for that. Most recently, she has an official website, jennyjones.com, which also houses links to her cooking website, jennycancook.com. She has a YouTube channel and another website, jennysheroes.com, which she launched in 2008. And it features stories of anonymous people who positively impact their communities. Now, she has no plans thus far of this taping to return to television. Okay. And again, focuses mainly on her philanthropic work, cooking and sharing healthy recipes on her websites and giving back. Now on her website, she says, quote, "Giving back doesn't have to be monetary. I'm blessed that I can share my good fortune as well as my love of cooking, benefiting lives any way I can," end quote. And she currently lives in Los Angeles with her fourth husband.
All right.
Dennis McCallion, who works as a film location manager.
Listen, fourth time is a charm, I always say.
So that is Jenny Jones.
What a fascinating person. I gotta say that she it's like she's lived several lives.
Yeah.
And I like what happened and that whole gotcha television, I don't like it. I can't back it. But I don't think it needs to define her also. Do you know what I mean? She's done a lot of good.
Well, I feel like it's such an important story to tell. And I think they've had documentaries about it because it's not just her. Obviously, it happened on her show and the tactics that her producers used, were common. It just reminds me of that Jerry Springer-ish. The Jerry Springer is like the I don't know, the animated, ridiculous version of it. But then actually seeing what happened on Jenny Jones is so terrifying because, again, when you watch the video, and I highly recommend listeners to go back and watch the video, it seems fine.
Also, too, she is in an environment where all these other shows are doing exactly the same thing.
And what happens when you're trying to one up each other, right?
Yeah,
like
I can see where, and also like if you're not homophobic, look, the tenor, the way the world was in the 90s was unsupportive overall, right? I remember that time. That was when friends were like coming out to me in like tears, and it was hard. And now we're like trying to raise children where it's not a coming out. It's just like, oh, you wanted to ask a boy, not a girl. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone is on that page, but it is much more common than it was then.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, a lot of people are still having 1990s experiences around queerphobia and homophobia right now in 2023 in certain parts of the country, depending on where you live. And, and actually it like when you watch, it's so surreal when you watch the video, you're like, oh, this is cute. Like, John seems a bit embarrassed and shocked, but, what's so fascinating is like what happened in those 3 days. I suspect, it's hinted at that his father, John's father, was extremely homophobic, and the goading and the bullying and the dragging, as we would say nowadays, of his father, and perhaps other people around him were also homophobic, got into his head.
Yeah.
And he had to reassert his manhood, quote unquote, whatever that is.
Right.
And do this. But it is so surreal knowing what happens, that he kills this beautiful soul who was Scott 3 days later. But when you watch it, I highly encourage people to go and watch the YouTube video. It's like, it's so shocking. And it happened. I mean, I know like what you were saying about Jenny, like it was, it was like it was in the environment, in that element, but it happened on her show. I mean, let's call a thing.
Listen.
It happened on her show. And I understood, you can understand, like, there's the public, we don't know how she feels about this personally. There's the public things that she said, obviously, in the court case. And, part of that is like to cover yourself legally or what have you. But I have no idea how she feels about it personally, but it is horrific, and it's definitely a notorious thing. So that's why I wanted to bring her up.
I have a feeling she's horrified just looking at like, she gives money to communities to build stronger communities. I feel like, I don't know. I'm putting putting thoughts into people's heads.
Who knows? I mean, I would hope that it's, when she thinks of that, it's, she's horrified. And then, she's been trying to make amends, for it. But, who knows? But it is like, when you think about it, it's just so, but again, I want to put it in context. The 90s were crazy, like, with this 90s, kind of stuff.
Let me tell you, can I tell you a story?
Oh, sure.
The 90s were crazy, right? And that was like, I was in high school, because I'm old, you guys. And, and like mid 2000s, remember MySpace? Yeah, Tom, cool. So I'm on it, and there's some thread, and the threads were short. You couldn't do a lot of threads on but something about gay rights, and of course I posted a thing that like in my heart summed up why gay rights was a necessity, and thought all the world would understand it. So I'm doing my duty as a good citizen, thinking everyone's going to be like, oh, good point. Thank you, Miriam. You've solved all the world's problems. And I would be like, you're very welcome. But instead, hilarity ensues as it was actually expected. And one of my old friends from high school says, well, gay was invented in the 90s.
Oh, God.
See? And here's the thing. He was genuine. And I remember
looking. Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. And I remember looking at Sal and being like, oh my God. Like, because like when I have to like break things down and I'm really emotional about it, I get like overwhelmed. So that's when I call in Sal and he can like calmly, and he wrote like a 12-page explanation about humanity on MySpace. Just to be like, it's part of all of humanity. It's in all of the animal kingdom. But that was a genuine thought, because that was around the time I think society was like, we're done here. And
I think that's a good story that responds by, I'd be like, I'm clearly surrounded by idiots. But anyway,
yes, what a definite one of the thoughts in my head.
But like that does kind of put it in context for our listeners who are not familiar with the 90s. Like people really thought that. Like, I mean, there's dumbasses who think that now. Like, gay, queerness and transness just started now. You're like,
yesterday.
The fuck up. Like, yeah, like, so it's
if you could open one book, that would be great. Anyways,
oh God, if you could just not be a fucking moron, but
also
so it is important to put it in context, but I just wanted to share that, and that is what makes her notorious. That's my notorious woman, Jenny Jones. So who do you have this week?
I have Lisa Marie Presley.
Oh,
yes. Now, okay, I want to preface this that I got much of this off of Wikipedia. And I probably don't know enough. # not historians. But I felt that I couldn't not talk about her.
Yeah.
And this is sort of personally because I sort of started looking her up, and I remember watching like the Elvis movie in like 1987. I'm making it up. It was at some point in my childhood. And like I remember when like the baby was born, and that's like all I sort of knew. And so I was very curious, and she's lived quite an interesting, beautiful life, and I want to talk about it.
Please.
So, wow. Are we ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Here we go.
Okay.
So she was born February 1st, 1968, the only child of singer and actor Elvis Presley. I think we all knew that, but I'll say it anyways. And Priscilla Presley is her mother. She was born 9 months to the day after her parents' wedding, which I was like, okay, on target.
Yeah.
In Memphis, Tennessee. So when she was 4 years later, her parents divorced, and she moved to Los Angeles with her mom. And her mom started a clothing store. I didn't know this.
I didn't either.
And it was very popular at the time. And then, so her mom took up with a man named Mike Stone. I think she'd been taking karate, and he was one of the senseis. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
one of the people
karate.
Teaching karate.
Yeah, one of the teachers. Yeah.
One of the teachers.
Which means sensei.
That's just the word. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know that.
Sensei is teacher. Yeah. Oh, you did. Yeah. Sensei means teacher.
Listen, this is why we're friends. Thank you. And okay. So then in 1978, Priscilla had a 6-year intermittent live-in relationship with model Michael Edwards. Now, so this is interesting how phrasing can work. So if you look up the Wikipedia page of Priscilla Presley, this is what they say. She had the 6-year relationship, intermittent, quote, from Priscilla Presley's Wikipedia page, quote, until he began developing feelings for the teenage Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie was aged 10 to 16 during his relationship with her mother.
Ew.
Yeah. So on Wikipedia, on Lisa Marie's page, says that she was reportedly sexually abused by Edwards when she was a teenager. She said that he would enter her room intoxicated and was inappropriate with her. Okay, so in no way was any of that okay. You can't fall in love with a child. You can only hurt them. Like, she was 10 or she was 16. Either way, no thank you.
Ew. Ew,
It's
gross.
disgusting. Awful.
And it's just, I will say it's crazy that Elvis Presley, who, again, black people, because rock and roll comes from black people
Yep.
in America. We don't call Elvis the king of rock and roll. That's white people doing that. But by all accounts, Elvis was very talented, extremely successful musician,
Yes.
like an icon, a legend in American society, American treasure, all that stuff, right? So the fact that Elvis's daughter could be in a situation where she's abused is just so crazy. Like
it really is. And I, listen,
children are so vulnerable no matter what.
They really are. And that's the thing. People blame themselves. But people weren't. It's more common. And people weren't talking about it.
Very common.
There was like a movement like later, much later, too late.
Also,
where it was like, go on.
Well, I just heard this thing and they were saying, I think it's Paul Holes. He was saying that, about true crime and all this other stuff. He was saying like people just were not, he was like, predators have been around forever and there's been a lot of them forever, but people were not aware that there's so many of them until recently.
And by all accounts, Priscilla was very much a hands-on mom. So, like, I don't know.
Also because as a mother, you don't think, I think everybody's a child molester, but I'm paranoid. But like you're in a relationship with a grown ass man.
Yep.
And you don't think a grown ass man is, because it's a natural, should be attracted to your 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. And that's what's like, listen, I worked for the YMCA, and if you work for the YMCA, you are trained to look out for these things. And you also get a lot of statistics. So now I wrap my children in bubble wrap and I put them, in a cage, which also you shouldn't do. So I don't actually do that. But you know what I'm saying?
But
like,
I err on the side that everybody's a child molester.
You should do that. Like
that's what I'm telling y'all.
Yeah.
And I don't have no kids. And I just think everybody a child molester.
Don't trust that. I don't trust anybody.
Oh, poor thing.
So obviously he was kicked out. So when she
is he still alive? If I was Elvis, I have to send some goons over there to handle that.
Oh, right.
But saying.
I don't know. Like back in the day, they didn't handle it right. They just, I don't know. I again, Wikipedia, # not historians, but like all the love for her to like talk about it and be like, no, this happened and it was wrong. Like, so her father died in August 1977. Like, I guess the world already knew that, but I'll say it again. She was 9 years old. She became joint heir to his estate.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
What?
Yeah. So that's why the guy thought he could get away with it because Elvis had died already. Now I understand.
Oh shit. I didn't connect, but you're absolutely right.
Because I was thinking like, why would he even risk like Elvis breaking his back for touching his little girl, but Elvis had died. Okay, gotcha.
What a son of a bitch, asshole.
Yeah, that's predators for you.
I don't like predators, Lavetta. I don't like them.
You know how I feel about them. Mm-hmm. Some motherfuckers need to be killed.
Burn them. Okay.
Like, I really have no qualms about that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
What did I say? Sometimes when I write this out, I like write thoughts, and I said something like, burn him. Yeah, I did. I said, I have zero tolerance for this shit. Less than zero. Fucking burn them. That's what I said. Because that's how I feel.
Yep.
Okay. So she became joint heir to his estate with her 59-year-old grandfather, Vernon, and Vernon's 87-year-old mother, Minnie Mae. So this is just a random fun fact, but I enjoy it. In the late 1970s, a year or two after her father's death, she attended her first rock concert when she saw Queen at the Forum in LA. So that she's like, 10 or 11. She gave Freddie Mercury a scarf of her father's after the show and expressed her love of theatrics. So, so cool.
Aww.
Like she hung out with Freddie Mercury as a kid.
She had good taste. She liked Queen. Queen is
right?
the bomb. First time I heard them on the black radio station, I could have sworn it was a black group singing, "Another one bites the dust."
Another one bites the dust. I love that. That's also really fun on the Just Dance video game, which I play like a lot. Anyways,
Oh, that's a good one.
um, on October 3rd, 1988, she married a Chicago-born musician, Danny. Okay, I cannot say this last name. Cuff. And she has a child who is an actress and a model, Riley Cuff, who's I think quite well known. But I don't
Can
know
you
how to.
kind of say it? How do you?
It's okay. I'll spell it. It's Keough. Your turn.
Cough? Cough?
Yeah,
Cough.
you know it as well as I do. No
I
idea.
don't know.
I don't know. But nice guy. So they had two children. Riley, born in 1989, who's an actress and a model now, and a son, Benjamin Storm, born October 21st. Now I'll just cut to the 1992. Cut to the chase. He died, very unfortunately, of suicide at the age of 27 in 2020.
So awful.
So yeah, it's so sad. So she then obtained a quickie divorce in 1994 on May 6th. So she actually stayed close friends with him her whole life, which is, I think, very, very cool. So there's some stuff she did there's the Elvis Presley Charitable Foundation. It was formed by Graceland Elvis Presley Enterprises in 1984, and it was sort of designed to continue. Elvis was very generous. He did a lot of community service. He would spend his money to help others, and so they wanted to continue this tradition and honor his memory. And it says that the EPCF was overseen by Lisa Marie Presley as chairperson and the management team of Graceland Elvis Presley Enterprises. But she was 16 in 1984, so I think it was like an honorific thing at first.
Yeah, Priscilla probably did a lot of it. Yeah,
I think
it's her
so.
mom. So
like you don't want 16-year-old Miriam chairing anything or being like responsible to do anything, honestly.
Also,
so just got to throw that out there.
It's so much pressure because she's Elvis again. Elvis is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, people listening probably know that, but like to be the only child of such a mega star, and she looks like him too.
Yeah, she does. She really does.
She has that famous sneer.
Yeah.
And she looks like both of them actually. And Priscilla is a very beautiful woman. So and Elvis is a very handsome man. So she has good genes as far as in the looks department. So but that kind of pressure, like I can't even imagine. Like then losing your daddy when you're so young, because obviously she's a daddy's girl, and then she loses him so young, and then her sexual abuse starts shortly after that.
Yeah, like like it's funny because I was like, oh, she has all this money and she's famous, and you're like, oh, it must be nice. But honestly, that's quite a bit of trauma to overcome. And
you're the only child too. Like I feel
you
like
don't
sometimes
have
siblings
to like help talk it out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like she doesn't have a peer, really.
No, because even if she has cousins and stuff, they still don't know. Like if she had siblings, like you said, it'd be
that's
at least she could have someone who would understand exactly what they were each going through, even if they deal with it in different ways. But it's a lot of pressure.
It's true. It's really true. So in 1993, she was on her 25th birthday. She inherited her father's estate. So her mother, this is like all about her mother. Her mother actually did a bunch of cool things to grow the estate to $100 million. It actually wasn't at first, but they did things. But that's for another day. But good job.
Yeah.
In 1998, she became more closely involved with the management. And because, she's no longer a child. And until February 2005, she was owner and chairman of the board. This is in regards to the Elvis Presley Trust and its business entity, Elvis Presley Enterprises. Then in 2005, she sold 85% of the estate's business holdings to CKX Incorporated, I think, which excluded Graceland itself and the property within it.
Smart.
So, right? Yeah. And then this is very cool. So Presley Place opened to its first residents in 2001. So it was there to provide homeless families up to 1 year of rent-free housing. It had child daycare. They had career and financial counseling. They did family management guidance. And they had other tools and things to help them break the cycle of poverty, regain self-esteem, gain independence. And they also, I love this, created the EPCF. So funded by the EPCF, I can read, I swear, is the Elvis Presley Music Room, where the kids at this place had access to musical instruments and instruction, and participated in special related programs. So they also created the Elvis Presley Endowed Scholarship Fund at the College of Communication and Fine Arts at the University of Memphis to assist students majoring in areas of the arts.
So that's like
badass. Like,
yeah.
I love the arts.
Help
I was in
kids,
band,
help
by the
kids.
way. Like, did you know that I was in band?
No, I did not. What instrument did you play?
Girl, I love to talk about it. But I don't talk about it that much because I used to talk about it a lot and my husband makes fun of me. But that shouldn't stop me, honestly. I played the alto saxophone.
Ooh, look at you.
I was
Fancy.
I was a section leader. Okay.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I may be peaked in high school. It's possible. Okay.
Saxophone is hard to play.
It's actually not that hard to play.
Oh, okay.
But thank you.
I was trying to help you out.
I know that. I do
and
know
lie
that.
to our listeners.
Yeah.
But
I really appreciate that. Okay. So on May 26, 1994, 20 days after her divorce from her first husband, I'm so sorry, you guys, she married Michael Jackson. I don't have to tell you who Michael Jackson is. It's Michael Jackson, you guys. But her ex-husband's younger brother was an official witness at their wedding, which that tells you how close they stayed. So she had first met Michael when she was 7 years old in 1975, and she attended one of his concerts in Las Vegas. So according to a friend of hers, quote, I just said as a friend, their adult friendship began in November 1992 in LA. So this was around the time the child molestation accusations became public, and he became increasingly dependent on her just to help him emotionally. And she was very concerned about his faltering health and his drug addiction. And this is a quote from her based on Wikipedia. # not historians. She said,
I'm sorry. Because the Michael Hive will drag us.
Okay,
so when you said drug addiction, because it hasn't been documented that Michael was addicted to drugs.
I
than the
I think it might
sleep stuff that he died of.
My guess is the sleep stuff.
Okay.
So this is on Wikipedia. Go yell at Wikipedia.
Yeah,
you can yell at me
Wikipedia.
too. That's fine. I'm not going to pretend I know anything because I
Michael
don't.
Jackson Hive will drag. They are passionate, and I myself am I am a huge Michael Jackson fan, as well as Jacksons in general. Because I'm a Black person in America, but like,
are you? Just kidding.
Like, they're just amazing. But like, my issues around the whole thing, the charges and things, that's a personal thing, and I won't get into it here. But I will say, because I just wanted to clarify that, because the Michael High will drag us.
What I will say is that I've never heard. Oh, don't dox me. I've never heard a Michael Jackson song I didn't love. That's what I will say. And I have in a dance class where we did Man in the Mirror, and it was the most powerful, beautiful performance that nobody ever saw. It's fine. Music can change the world, you guys. And that's all I have to say about that.
Exactly. So we'll just go past that part, but I just wanted to clarify, because I don't want us to be dragged by the Michael Hive.
I mean, listen, we don't know. we could have
Yeah, we
feelings,
still,
but
yeah,
we don't
yeah.
know anything.
Yeah, we still don't know anything, but I just want to say, because even I was like, I don't think Michael was addicted. Because when you say addiction,
Well,
people are like, oh, is he on cocaine or like? And it's
oh
like,
no, I was
no.
assuming that meant the
Sleep stuff with
sleep stuff. Listen, I
and
had
you
to
know
get
what we
that
mean
sleep
when we
stuff
say
once, and it like that's a
Yeah.
good night's sleep. I won't.
the
I'm
sleep
not gonna
stuff,
lie.
the stuff that Conrad Murray was administering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to
So
clarify because again, I
that
want
is okay. I know.
Michael Hive to
Mm-mm.
be like, we will dox you bitches. You are going down because I can't speak for Miriam, but I'm a huge Jackson fan just in general. And hashtag off the wall is better than Thriller. I'm going to just say that.
Whoa.
I'm just say that.
Oh, wow. No,
Yeah.
but Thriller, listen. Okay.
No, Thriller's amazing. All his stuff is amazing. But Off the Wall is my jam. Okay.
Okay.
Girlfriend.
But listen, again, and we listen to Michael Jackson. My kids love him too. Like,
yeah. So, but I just wanted to just clarify. I just want to step in, clarify. So,
okay.
But go ahead. I'm
You
sorry.
Sorry. She did though marry him, and so there is information about that.
Yeah.
So she didn't believe. Her quote is, "I believed he didn't do anything wrong, and that he was wrongly accused. And yes, I started falling for him." She says, "I wanted to save him. I felt like I could do that." And then she said, it says, hashtag not historians. She tried to persuade him to settle out of court and to go into rehabilitation to recover. And it says he did both. Now, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know about the rehabilitation because, icons and celebrities of that status, a lot of times rehab is like a rest rehab as well.
Yeah.
More so than like a substance abuse rehab. But like, yeah, I think it was settled. And then he probably took a break. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, this is what Wikipedia said. But I feel like the world followed him so closely that it was probably what we're assuming is, when he eventually passed, that he needed a break. He probably did need a break.
Yeah, he's been famous since he was like, what, 8?
3 years old. Like this child. We can't get into that. I just
3, but like
I know. But essentially.
The Jackson 5.
No,
he's a baby singing and dancing.
He was so talented. Okay.
So gorgeous. He's a gorgeous baby.
I know. Okay. So she was in his You Are Not Alone video in June 1995. And in January 1996, citing irreconcilable differences, she files for divorce. And there was like a he said, she said about like who filed first. I don't want to get into it. I don't know their business. Like this, like I want to like analyze people's businesses, but like this is not, I'm not worried about this. This is fine. They got divorced. Who cares? But that's like sometimes it's like about optics, Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine though if they had a baby?
Oh, wow.
Michael Jackson, like Jackson and Presley blood, like in
Could
one
you
child.
like the talent that would come out?
Man.
Like, my God, like and gorgeous.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, me too. No pressure on that kid though.
I know, right?
Okay. So she told Oprah in a 2010 interview that she and Jackson had attempted to reconcile back intermittently, like for 4 years after the divorce, and she would travel to be with him. So I think they stayed close. It says after his death in 2009, she was reported to have felt shattered. Quote, felt shattered. So let's get into this little thing here. So like many cool ass famous people. So she spent some solid time in Scientology.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I know, right? So her and her friend, and this is how they phrased it in Wikipedia, fellow Memphian and Scientologist, because from Memphis. See what I did there? See what they did there? I didn't do anything.
I see what you did that.
Thank you. Isaac Hayes They opened the Literacy, Education, and Ability Program, LEAP, in October 1997, which is run by Applied Scholastics, which is definitely a group run by Scientologists. So I Googled that, and it is Scientology for school children, essentially. Probably now on a list that I maybe regret by looking it up, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, everyone's watching, right? Like, that's how it is.
Yeah.
So for her efforts to help U.S. children learn study skills, she received the Humanitarian Award from the Church of Scientology. It's no lies. Let me start that again. So she received the Humanitarian Award from the Church of Scientology supported World Literacy Crusade on January 5th, 2002. And she received it from Isaac Hayes, Chaka Khan, and Yolanda King, who is the daughter of Martin Luther King. The World Literacy Crusade is regarded by critics as a front group for the Church of Scientology. So then on September 26th, which is my birthday, so I accept presents that are nice and like chocolate. Anyways, of that same year, she addressed a U.S. congressional hearing in opposition to the use of medication in treating ADHD. So I think Scientology has a stance on, I don't know if it's all medications. I think some mental health stuff. I vaguely remember something about something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although ADHD is just a function of how the brain works. So addressing the committee as the international spokesperson for children's rights for the Citizens Committee on Human Rights, a group also run by Scientologists, she expressed her view that parents should be informed about alternatives to drugs so they may make, quote, an informed decision about their child's educational and medical needs. Okay, so here's what I will say about this. I think sometimes maybe we think we're doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's misguided, but it's out of love. I think it seems to me, just based on what I've read, that she had, her heart was really about helping children. She really wanted to she did things that was above and beyond for them. And I think she probably read some things given to her by some Scientology friends that made her fear what was happening to children. But I don't think it's,
you're giving her some grace. That
I'm giving her some grace because I just feel like she is someone who has always kind of come from a good place.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not famous, so I've not, had a chance to mess up huge, but like I have done that where I think, oh, this is bad. You can't do this. You're going to hurt people. And then you realize, oh, you're actually protecting them. You're actually saving them.
Yeah.
And she left Scientology in 2014, and she had been experiencing growing discontent with the organization as far back as 2008. So we're not going to know, she kind of let that go.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to dig deep into Scientology. But I'm glad she left. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like you said, as you get older in life, you realize we all make mistakes. And like sometimes, what's that saying? No good deed goes unpunished. And so sometimes, because could you imagine the people at Scientology, they were like, Elvis's daughter is a member.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. And I've heard like all of the stuff, all of the dark stuff that's surrounding or dark rumors that are surrounding Scientology. I've been told, again, I don't know how true this is, allegedly the stars are not privy to like the dark elements of, and
they're given what they're given,
yeah,
which is, I think it's really sad.
Yeah.
But she
left. She
Yeah.
left. So
She was like, peace. Okay. So let's go on. November, I'm going back and forth. You know how I do.
yeah.
1998, she was engaged to a musician, dude named John, but she broke off the engagement because she met Nicolas Cage at a party, and then they got married.
Oh,
and
that's
then,
right.
I know, right? I forgot about this. Married August 10th, 2002. Then they filed for divorce November 25th, 2002. And then the divorce was finalized in 2004. And then so here's what I will say. And this is why I give her grace. She joined Oprah Winfrey, and her Angel Network was active in the relief efforts after Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. She gave a helping hand in Memphis. She was there. She showed up. She donated money, but she also she was there. And quote from her, based on Wikipedia, she was said, "I'm here because I definitely needed to do something, and it just so happens this is where I'm from. I'm going to do everything I can. People need help. This is a huge catastrophe, and everyone needs to stand up." She personally shopped, she searched for, she distributed truckloads of goods to people. Then January 22nd, 2006, she married for a fourth time to Michael Lockwood, a guitarist. He was her guitarist. He was a music producer and a director. Danny, first husband, served as best man at the wedding. It was held in Japan. Then she gave birth to fraternal twins. Okay, because I have twins. So yes, we're the same. Okay. Harper Vivian and Finley Aaron. And then in 2011, she became a patron of the Dream Factory, which is a charity based in London, which grants wishes of terminally ill children and those with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. So this is my point. She was always looking to help children, like however she could.
It's so interesting. I just want to, that her whole experience with volunteering in Nashville. Was it Nashville?
Memphis.
I'm sorry, Memphis, Tennessee. I feel like this is when they say sometimes, especially if you have a lot of time on your hands, a lot of, resources, like really helping others and like looking outside yourself can be really helpful to keep you focused and on track.
Yes.
Because it sounds like she had the heart of, and she was a philanthropist, but it's like, sometimes you get in your own way if you're with your own shit too much. And so it's good to like go out and volunteer and like, and that can really kind of keep you on. It sounds like she needed a little bit more of that in her life. And don't marry Nicolas Cage. Even I can tell that's probably not a good idea.
She ran screaming. It was fine.
I don't know Nicolas Cage. I'm just going by what I observe from afar, but
don't
that
marry
don't seem
him.
like a good idea.
Not really, no. Okay, so on June 24th, she was honored
Even though Raising Arizona is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Girl, I've never seen it. I need to see it. I know.
Oh, blasphemous.
But Peggy Sue got
good.
married. I'm obsessed.
One of my favorite lines in cinema history of all time is, "Nature and the prejudices of others had conspired to keep us childless." Directly from Raising Arizona.
You sound like him. Oh my God. That's amazing. Okay.
I love it. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So 2011, June 24th, she was honored by the governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, who proclaimed a day of recognition for her charitable efforts. 2 days later, she was issued a certificate of proclamation by the mayor of New Orleans, Mitchell J. Landry. Is French. I messed it up. Anyways, he was the mayor, in recognition of her dedication and contributions to the city. So she did a lot. So then she divorced him in 2021. That's fine. Okay. Point is, I'm skipping to the music career. She had a whole ass music career, like a whole music career. Did you know this?
I did, but again, her father was Elvis Presley, so.
Let's be clear. I am never up to date on anything. So if you're like, how did you not know I love her so much? I don't know anything. Like, unless you're in the Just Dance video song. So like I know some K-pop and then some like Katy Perry, and I love them. Okay. But so I'm educating myself right now. Listen, I listen to a lot of her music. She's no surprise, I guess, but like fucking talented.
Oh, so good.
And how brave she is to do that. Like to go out there, create this music, do her thing. She released her debut album, To Whom It May Concern, April 8th, 2003. It did well. She got beautiful reviews calling it a stark, uncompromising tone, and Presley's gutsy blues-edged voice has a distinctive flair. This was the LA Times critic Robert Hilburn. So Pat Benatar and Presley performed at the VH1 Divas Duets. Do you remember those?
No, I never. And I love me some Pat Benatar. That's my girl.
Listen, they sang Heartbreaker. Yes.
Really?
And then she performed that a lot in her own tours. Then her second album was called...
I have to look that up on YouTube.
It's good. It's so good. Now What was released April 5th, 2005. She likes releasing things in April. I see that. There's like a bunch of stuff. Y'all look it up. There's the song Idiot I thought was funny. Is a jab towards different men in her life, which was awesome. She was in a documentary Too Tough to Die, a tribute to Johnny Ramone, who was one of the Ramones. You guys like look that up. That's like music education for you. Very important. She was in the music video for Johnny Cash's God's Gonna Cut You Down in 2006. And the single In the Ghetto was released August 2007. So Elvis Presley had originally released that single in 1969. In the new version, Lisa duets with her father. The video was released with the single. It reached number 1 on iTunes sales. iTunes sales were a real thing in 2007, you guys. Okay, that's how I bought my music. I'm old. I still want to. And there's so much I'm skipping because you can like look it up and listen. So her third album is called Storm and Grace, was released May 15th, 2012. She calls it, this is a quote her, it's much more of a rootsy record, organic record than my previous work. It was produced by Oscar and Grammy winner T-Bone Burnett. It's so good. Like there's a lot of like great critical reviews that love it. Like not critical, like in a positive, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, critical reviews.
Critically
acclaimed.
Critically acclaimed. That's what I was going to say. Yes. So, and then in 2018, she was featured on the title track of the compilation Where No One Stands Alone, which was a collection of her father's gospel songs. It was reworked into a duet between her and her father. So another one. And then a music video for the song was released, and she incorporated scenes of her and her father in it, which makes me cry, you know.
Yeah, that's sad.
Speaking of crying.
Sweet.
Which we probably all know, on January 12th, 2023, around 10:30 a.m., she passed away at her home in Calabasas, which was, she was only 54. It was, they say, a cardiac arrest, which is, you know, heart issues in women are something that people should take seriously because we don't, it is a very real risk for women. Her last public appearance was 2 days before at the Golden Globes, which she attended with her mother. And that was where, as far as I know, like the Elvis movie won a bunch of awards.
Have you seen the movie?
I haven't.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of over, I know they, you know, the state approved it, but I'm just kind of over, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's I know not to be like that, but this guy's not even American. Isn't he like Australian or something? I'm like
something like that. Yeah.
Not to be like that, because a lot of us and Australians and Aussies in particular, I think, do American accents really, really, really well. Guy Pearce is one of my favorite actors of all time. But then Baz Luhrmann did. I heard it wasn't like. I heard it has that Baz Luhrmann-esque to it. So
yeah, that's a little bit why I haven't seen it yet. I don't have
and I
the
heard Tom
energy.
Hanks's Colonel, the Colonel who was his manager. I heard that
Oh,
performance is very odd.
I could see that just from the sentence you just said. Yep, I could see that being odd. Yeah.
Yeah, but I actually have a couple friends who really like the movie a lot. So I mean, don't listen to me. Go and watch it yourself.
No, I mean, you just won a crap ton of awards, and it's very well renowned. So that is Lisa Marie Presley. It's like a 50th of Lisa Marie Presley. So there's, she lived just such a beautiful and prolific life.
Yeah, but 54. Oh,
it's too young. It's just too young.
Too young. It's too young. Heart. Poor thing. Oh man, it's so sad. And also because knowing her father died so young and, and then Priscilla, her mama outliving her baby.
Gosh. But she, you see them, I don't know, they're holding strong and they're keeping her spirit alive. I don't know. I'm very sentimental.
How many children did she have? 4?
She had 4 children. I really hope it's 4 children because I think it's 4. She had 2 with her first husband and then 2 with her last husband, twins. Okay.
But only 3 have survived because she lost
3 survived, yeah.
Son, I mean, one of her sons. But oh, that's terrible. But I mean, that's what we're here for, like to have it's almost interesting. It's almost like if she had been like sent away as like not away, but like kind of put in a bubble from her father's legacy, in a protective bubble where she was protected and not sexually abused.
Right.
Right. But like in a bubble, I wonder if she would have had a better chance because like being like looking like your father too. Like I almost wonder like if she looks so much like him. Like, I wonder if she like look, sometimes you look up people's kids and they look nothing like their parents or they look a little bit like their parents and they're able to carve out their own identity that's separate from like a parent who's like larger than life.
I gotta say though, like I feel like she kind of did both. She did the duets with her father. She did, but then she was also, she kind of, especially her last album was really all her. And there are like quotes, you guys, you can look them up, like where it's like, this was the most Lisa Marie, like this was her. And I listened to that album because as I was like researching and I just like put it on and it's really like, I don't know, it's its own thing. It's really beautiful. It's not even music I would generally listen to, but I mean, honestly, like I like musical theater. So, I don't want to throw away my shot most of the time, if you know what I'm saying.
You got to get that Hamilton quote in there somehow.
Day. Oh, I can't help it. I think every episode I've said it.
I know you.
But like, and so I was like, oh, cool. So I like recommend listening to her stuff. It's on Apple. Hashtag. I'm just kidding. But it is on Apple Music. And that is Lisa Marie.
Thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot today. A lot of that stuff I didn't know. Some of it I knew, but just by her virtue of her being Elvis's only child. But thank you so much for sharing that. And that wraps up another episode of Notorious Women Podcast. Guys, remember to share us with your friends and family. Copy the link and just send it to them. Yes. Don't tell them about it. Send them the link, text it, email it, send it via pigeon, however you need to do it.
Just be like, here.
Falcon. Yeah.
I like Falcon.
Send it to them. Also, please leave us a 5-star review in the iTunes store. That helps people find us. It really, really helps. And Miriam's going to tell you how you can contact us otherwise.
I mean, like I can't find it. Found it. No, I didn't find it. All right, listen. I should just know it, right? And
yeah.
Here we are. Okay. We have a Gmail. It's notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. I found it. It
IG?
is notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. I was right. We also have an IG. You guys follow us on IG. It's Notorious Women Podcast. I'm having a great time without Lavetta on this IG. She doesn't want to be on the reels, but I'm like having a lot of fun. So please like follow me.
Yeah.
And, like-
Miriam's afraid that she posts something about Black women or women of color, and she's a white lady on there, and people be like, "Who this white lady is?"
Right?
Who? And then they say like, "Who this white lady is?" That's how Black people be like, "Who this?"
Right?
Like,
Exactly. And I'm like, I'm just trying. She won't do anything.
it's not that I won't. I'm just very busy, and like,
I know.
you
I
guys
know
how
you're so
IG
busy.
works.
I'm like,
I'm
can you
like,
you're like, no, I actually can't.
it's like one other thing I have to do. Like,
Right.
I mean.
Listen, I have never had more fun having to deal with this IG.
You're having a
account.
lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun cackling at the stuff you're doing.
I know.
Online. Like, so
Well,
follow us, comment, tell us what you think. Also, send us, suggestions of
yes.
ladies that you want to hear. And this is, just want to reiterate, this is all inclusive. We are woke.
That's
I know that word is bad, but we believe in being inclusive. We cover, we're going to be covering queer women, trans women, non-binary. Non-binary, no, I think we'll skirt away from that unless we have a non-binary host comes on. Yeah, because
I'm open.
We're too simple cis women, so we got to play in our lane.
Yeah, but sometimes we gotta open the lane. We gotta mess it up badly, and then we gotta fix it. I don't know,
so
world's gotta get better somehow, and we're gonna do that.
We mean well, even though again I can only speak for myself. I can be very basic sometimes, and I'm it's okay
and I am not allowed to agree with that statement. So that's where we're at. Cool.
Guys, that wraps it up. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.